Today's episode of the MITM podcast is brought to you by the FBC Challenge. Everything you need to master your money. With that being said, run the intro.
Caught up in them bright lights, lusting for shiny things that's golden. Everything ain't always what it seems, let it soak in. Chasing my dreams, coming apart at my seams. Best believe that the money is the motive.
What's up, world? Welcome back to another episode of the MITM podcast, where we delve into the matters that change our lives by exploring the 6 pillars of self-mastery. Now, I'm your host, Ty Aarons, and today we're going to do something just a little bit different than what we normally do. And we're inviting on this absolutely wonderful guest. Okay, now we met many years ago through an artist incubator in Toronto. It's actually so crazy that we're connected and able to, catch up and everything. He recently launched a community called The Next Realm. Now it's focused on allowing people to continuously reach to the next levels in their lives through guidance and incredibly powerful community. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into that in a little bit, but he's a musician and entrepreneur at heart and an inspiration to all that follow him. So I'm so grateful to say, welcome Seth Dyer to the MITM podcast. Hey Seth, how you doing today?
I am fantastic. That was a great intro. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, man. I'm really grateful that we were able to stay in contact, even though it has been so many years, but I see you doing so many big things online and I'm like, hey, let me reach out, let me say what's up. And I think that there's some value that we can bring to you because you're doing so much stuff and shining so brightly. I'm like, let's add some more light to this brightness you're already shining. And I think it was really cool that we're in a very similar space where we're helping people with some aspects of self-mastery, whether it's fitness, whether it's finance, whether it's personal development and goals. It's like we're on the same wavelength,
Exactly.
So today what we're actually going to go through is we're going to explore just a couple of things for goal setting, because I know a lot of people are really struggling with that. A lot of people, maybe they start it, they stop it, they don't know how to really get into certain tangibles and actually develop themselves. So they end up being on like a circular cycle instead of a spiral cycle. You know what?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I was kind of curious, like when you think of defining short-term and long-term goals, like what comes to mind? Like what are some things that you do? Like if I was a client, I have to sit with you, what would you help me do right off the bat?
It's funny that you asked me this because last night I actually built an entire course and system about about goal setting and obtaining goals. So it's interesting that you asked me about that. But basically, I think the very first thing is that people need to build clarity of a purpose, like clarity of where they want to be in life. A lot of people don't necessarily know what they want, right? So you need to know what the version of yourself is, who is like your ultimate self, your best self, your dream self, your ideal self. Who is that person, right? And when you decide what that is, then you can start building goals around that. Right. And I break goals down into four categories, which would be mentally, physically, spiritually, financially. And mentally, obviously the way you think, no one can take away the way you think. You can always adjust and better your mind. You can learn new mental models about things, whether it's about leadership, discipline, accountability. You can learn new mental models. Physically, obviously staying in a gym, like your body this is the vessel you have to traverse the earth with. It's incredibly important. So you should have goals in relation to your health. When I speak to a lot of like people who are in the 7, 8, even 9-figure range, the common factor is that what concerns them and what they want to take care of is their health. Because if they are healthy, they can get more done and they can be making more money. And if you're sick, you can't enjoy anything. Spiritual for me has to do with purpose and fulfillment. So people can conflate like purpose and passion sometimes. You don't necessarily need to be passionate about something to make money from it and fulfill your purpose. So let's say you sell nuts and bolts and screws and you make a lot of money from that, but then you utilize that money to do like community efforts that mean something to you. Right? That's more purposeful driven. That's more spiritually driven. Right? And then finances, making more money. Right. So that's how I break down the goals. And in terms of actually obtaining them, a lot of people aren't very specific with their goals. So when I weighed 130 pounds, I wanted to get to 160 pounds. So I needed to specifically put on 30 pounds. Right. And I wanted it to be, mainly muscle. Right. So I needed to have the specifications of that. And a lot of people aren't specific with their goals. right? They're like,
Exactly.
I want more money. It's like, okay, if you make 4K a month, how are you going to make 6K a month, 7, 8, right? Specific.
Yeah. So I'm curious. So with these breakdowns you have, and the getting specific is the first step. I think that's amazing. But how would you break that into the short terms and then the long terms? Like, how would you specifically map out the two?
Yeah. So short term, what I do is I set the goalpost just a tiny bit ahead of where I already am.
Mm,
Right. So what a lot of people do is that they only think of long-term goals. So they're like, I want to be a millionaire. Okay, but are you making 10K a month yet? Are you making 20K a month yet? You know what I mean? So it's like you just set the goalpost a little bit ahead each time, right? Because then it's more obtainable. That's how you do short-term things. So let's say somebody wanted to lose 5 pounds or something, right? That's more short based, right? So that's how I look at it. It's like incremental. It's like
mm,
frames, right? Piece by piece. I don't set it too far out, because if it's too far out, then you deal with dissociation, right? I'm not saying you can't obtain it. You definitely can, but it's so far that it's dissociated. It doesn't seem as real, as opposed to if I make $10,000 a month, 11,000 is more real. It's more
exactly.
fun. It's more
Yeah.
attainable, you know?
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I guess that way you can actually like celebrate your smaller wins.
Yes.
Yeah, and keep that motivation going. Okay. So I guess going that actually segues perfectly into the next one where it's creating the roadmap for achieving personal goals. So step one is kind of like getting clear. Step two is a little bit setting the goalposts. But like when we actually sit down to make that roadmap, what does that look like for you? Like how would you build out a roadmap?
It very much depends on the aspect that I'm trying to work on, right? So with me, it's built, like I said, within those 4 categories.
Hmm.
So let's say a long-term goal for money is to, let's say, make $1 million a year cash, right? Let's say that's long term. But the roadmap to that is like, how am I going to do this? What things can I possibly do to get there? Do I have a business that I've started? Right? It's like, okay, do I start a business? If you have a business, how do I scale up that business? Maybe you're scaling a business and there's different levers or things that you need to move, traffic conversions, blah, blah, blah. I'm getting very techy, but basically you want to look at where you ultimately want to be, and what pieces do you think can get you there, right? What actions do you think that you can take to get to where you want to get to? And
Mm,
the reason I like to think short term and just put the goalpost a little bit ahead is that if the goalpost is constantly a little bit ahead, you will get to that longer term goal in pieces, right? But you have to know what actions you're going to take. So let's say using the gym is very easy. So
mm,
let's say you wanted to lose 10 pounds, for instance, right? What actions are you going to do to lose 10 pounds? Are you just going to sit there and think about losing 10 pounds? You know what I mean? Or
exactly.
are you going to, is your diet going to change? Are you going to go to the gym maybe 5 times a week instead of 4? Are you going to hire a trainer? Like, what actions can you actually take? And the actions help create the roadmap. You understand?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I see you. So you talked about breaking it down into tangible steps. You talked a little bit about fitness, breaking it down to steps, and gym, breaking it down to steps. Could we break down some goals for our mental well-being, or what are some things that we could do for our mental?
Yeah. I think I think the first thing, one of the most important things for your mental, is to learn how to be disciplined. And that is easier said than done. And the way I do it is I envision the version of myself that I want to be,
Mm,
right? And that is who I compete with. So for instance, I may wake up and I might be like, man, I do not want to work out today. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to work out. But there is my ultimate self who has woke up and has worked out, and I'm competing with him. So, and he's me. Do you understand? Everything that I have, everything that I have gone through, my genetics, he is me, but he is doing the right things. So there's a competition element to it, and it creates even a little bit of healthy anxiety within me where I'm like, yo, there's a version of me who did this. Am I not going to become my best self? Do you understand? So
Mm,
so there's a version of me who's doing it, and that's how I stay disciplined, because discipline is actually freedom.
mm,
The most disciplined people I know are actually the most free people. And the people with the least amount of discipline are captured to whether it's bad health or bad finances or bad relationships, right? Then you are trapped. But if you are disciplined, you can access freedom. So I think mentally working on your discipline is important. And discipline is not a one and done thing. Some days you might fail, and it's okay. You start again tomorrow, right? Just know in your mind that this is going to cause you freedom. If you're disciplined in going to the gym, your health will be good. If you're disciplined with your finances, you will not be stressed about money. If you're disciplined about how you handle your relationships and maintain things with people, you will not be stressed from the people in your life. You understand?
mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So you kind of already answered my next question about tracking and celebrating milestones.
Mm.
But I want to know, what are some things that you do to celebrate? So let's say you hit a new milestone, either you actually got to the weight that you wanted for, or your fitness goals, you got to your finance goals. What are some ways that you celebrate milestones? And what are some ways that our listeners can explore celebrating milestones?
Yeah. So it depends. That's personally based upon people and where they're at in life. So me, I'm a workhorse, bro. Like I actually enjoy working and like to work. So I end up rewarding myself with work. You know what I mean?
I get
But
that.
but due to where I am, like
Mm,
now I might be able to go on a vacation, right? A week or two, which I'm still doing work on vacation, but at least I get to do it in Jamaica or something, right?
I hear that 100%. I'm the same. They're like, Tyre, we're on vacation. Can you stop working? And it's like, no,
Like
this
you're
is
on
fun.
vacation.
Yeah, it's like, this is fun for me, you know?
Yeah, like when I so recently I won a boxing match, right? That was my first fight, and the training for it was incredibly difficult. It was one of the most arduous mentally and physically. It was one of the most arduous mental and physical things I had ever done, right?
Mm,
And I won the fight. Fantastic feeling. How I rewarded myself is I went on a little week vacation in Spain with my girlfriend, right? I was still getting work done, but at least it was in Spain and it was nice, right? Some people may not have the money to be bouncing around and going on vacation all the time.
mm,
So you have to think of what works for you. For instance, let's say something came out on Netflix that you really wanted to see. Do not watch it until you have accomplished something. And I'm not talking about big term goal. I'm saying like did you knock off all your tasks for the day? If you
mm.
knocked off all your tasks for the day, okay, yeah, go reward yourself with the Netflix show that you want to watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I see. And
Yeah.
that, you hear that, guys, make sure that even as we've cut down our goals, you can reward yourselves and enjoy those things. Eat that cookie after you finish your checklist.
I would
Like,
say I would actually say that the task or the goal is not finished until you reward yourself.
oh,
Because yeah, because here's the thing, you're training your mind. What happens is a lot of people give themselves rewards before they do anything, and it builds
mm,
bad mental pathways because it's like, yeah, I'm just going to take the cookie or I'm just going to watch this, and then they put the things that they need to do on the back burner, and they can't have delayed gratification. They're not disciplined. They're giving themselves the dopamine before doing the work, right?
yeah.
If you do the work first, if you do the work first and do what you need to get done first, then the reward means so much more.
For
And you
real.
building your mind to tell you that, like, yeah, I need to put in the work to get these things, and you will be happy to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what that, and you know what? As much as I think about rewards, I never thought of it like that, where add it to your checklist. If you have your list of things to do at the bottom, add the reward that you want, because that's like, now you're
Yeah,
like, oh, this is a part of my day. I'm supposed to do this now, you know? Like, that's
exactly.
powerful. That's
Yeah.
powerful. I'm definitely gonna borrow that for myself because
Yeah,
that's an
man.
amazing idea. Thank you for that, Gem. Um, okay, and I guess the last question for this segment is for continuous learning and skill development for personal growth. What are some things you would suggest that people can do?
Me, I actually allocate a certain budget yearly to learning things, to education,
Mm,
right? So that may be certain online courses, that may be actually going to certain events and meeting people. I think knowledge is incredibly important. Education is incredibly important, but maybe not necessarily in the classical sense of education, right? If you are interested in, let's say, the music business, right? You don't need to go to university for liberal arts or something, right? You can spend your money on educating yourself on the music business,
mm,
right? Learn about, contracts, learn about who knows mixing and engineering so you can talk to your engineer a certain lingo.
yeah,
Put knowledge in your mind that has to do with what you want in life. And the quickest shortcut to get ahead is to pay for knowledge.
mm-hmm.
Okay. The
Free knowledge
game
is
is
not always the
sold.
best.
Yeah, like the game is sold, not told. And
Mm-hmm.
you can go on YouTube. There's tons of free resources, but the issue with the free resources is that it's time. So you have to think of what you're willing to sacrifice and where you're at, right? So before I needed to utilize a lot of time to learn. Now I can spend money to learn quicker.
Exactly. It's an
And
accelerator.
yeah, and I think everybody should be thinking about what what things they can learn, what they need to do, and allocate like a certain budget to learning yearly. It's super important.
Yeah.
The richest people I know are always learning.
Exactly. That's so powerful. And that leads into our second segment. And this is kind of what we explored with the Student of Life podcast before. So I'm gonna ask a couple questions. This is just like you can answer them however you want. They're a little
Cool.
bit different. I do have to say shout out to Tim Ferriss because I'm very much inspired by him to even ask these.
Dope.
But let's jump into it. So the first question is, if you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, what would it say and why?
It'd probably be in Times Square because there's a whole bunch of people there. And it would say, you can accomplish whatever you want. And then it would have my website down there somewhere.
Okay, makes sense.
You know? And it
Um,
would look super fly. It would look amazing.
hey, you know what? Honestly, even just seeing how your Instagram is laid out and how you do things, I know it'll be super fly.
Yeah, man.
100%. Like that's like a Seth Dyer standard. It's been like that for a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I could talk about that. Sorry, I know
Oh
you
yeah,
got
no.
questions that I don't want to interrupt it, but perception is
Mm,
very important because people are actually making decisions about you with their lizard brain as soon as they see you, right?
mm,
So developing the best perception, the best image that you can of yourself, physically and mentally. What you think of yourself actually radiates into the world, which is a different thing. But at least physically, the image that you portray into the world, it's important. Why do people know who a homeless person is versus somebody who may have a lot of wealth?
mm,
Image, right?
exactly.
You make decisions based upon that. You may treat the homeless person different than the person who's in the suit, right? People create judgments and people like to say, oh, I don't judge, I don't judge. You do.
You
If you have
do?
ever driven a car, you have judgment to stay alive.
Exactly.
So yeah, you got to build the right perception of yourself and it should be congruent with who you actually are. But yeah,
100%.
continue.
Okay, beautiful. And I want to add on that. I did the test. I did the test back when I was a teenager, and I don't know if you remember, close to when we first met. I used to wear a blazer all the time and my collar shirts and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, because I went out and I'm like, I'm gonna do a couple of things. I'm gonna say that I left my wallet. I'm gonna try and get on the bus. I'm gonna try and get some food. I'm just gonna see how people react to me. And I went out and I'm just dude in the city, my hoodie on, my pants, my Jordans just chilling.
Yeah.
They did not let me on the bus. Like, no food.
Yep.
And it's like they didn't want me to be there. But I put on my white shirt with my collar, my blue blazer on. I go out. I'm like, oh man, I'm late for work. I gotta get on the bus. He's like, oh, come on, sir, you're good. I was like, wait, sir?
There you
I'm
go.
like, I'm 17. You're calling me sir? This is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And all the things on my list, I'm like, people treat you with more respect. They're like, I remember recently at the Whataburger across the street from my house, they opened up another line for me. And I'm like, great. y'all's gonna stay in that line. I'm coming over here. I'm happy, you know.
Yep.
Um,
You'll be very surprised in how you're treated based
oh,
upon solely perception.
exactly. That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, man.
Absolutely crazy. Okay, you ready for the next question?
100%.
So, what are 1 to 3 books that have greatly influenced your life?
Oh man, I would say number one, the Kabbalion, which is about universal law
Mm,
sense, just the kind of the rules that govern the universe. Oh man, another would be probably the 48 Laws of Power. Now, with that book, it's like if you implement all of them throughout your life, you're going to become a very difficult person for other people to deal with. But when you're in certain situations, you got to know which rules to utilize,
mm,
whether it's like being mysterious, not saying as much, or reputation, for instance. Like reputation is incredibly important, right? So 48 Laws of Power was real good. And I think the 50th Law as well,
that
another
was a good
Robert
one.
Greene and 50 Cent book. Like the 50th Law is great because one, it's about dealing with fear and turning nothing into something, which
Mm,
is things I've been able to do regularly. And you see the thing about fear, fear holds so many people back, right? If you are not at peace with the certain things that you might be afraid of, people can use it to control you. People can use it to influence your actions. So you have to be very aware of fear. And there's a difference between fear and caution. Some people say, "Oh, I'm just cautious." No, really, they're just afraid, right?
mm,
And there's a lot of things that people are afraid of, but to deal with those things is incredibly important to deal with fear. And given the opportunity to be brave, you should be brave. That doesn't mean you go looking for trouble, but given the opportunity to make a brave choice, you should make a brave choice because you will be better for it. You will be stronger for it. You know what I mean?
mm.
And yeah, those three books.
Okay.
So the Kabbalion, 48 Laws of Power, and the 50th Law.
Okay, thank you for sharing. We're gonna have that linked below the podcast if you're listening, or the video if you're watching. You'll see links to each of those books. Next question: what purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months, or just in recent memory?
Wow, that's a really good question because I can't remember the last time I went outside and spent less than $100. Oh man, that's a super good question. I think uh, I think I bought some studio lights the other day that cost less than $100 each, which is good because it allows me to like work on my business and the courses that I'm doing and make YouTube look nicer and that type of stuff. So it's a
Mhm.
long-term investment that cost me less than $100. So yeah.
Okay, that's okay. Thanks for sharing. Um, now, what advice would you give a smart, driven college student about to enter the real world?
Mhm. To be very aware of your circle. Be very aware of the people around you. You want to get around go-getters. You want to get around people that are doing something with their lives. And here's the thing, if they're not physically around you, you can find them digitally. There's tons of communities, tons of places where people are go-getters and influencing each other, and it's a rising tide. So I'll give you an example. The people I hang out with now, they have money, right? But when I had access to them, I didn't have that much money.
Mm,
So we were going to a dinner in one of the nice spots in the city, right? Rooftop vibe, expensive food. And I was like, there is no way that I'm going to be the guy that can't afford his plate. So I figured out how to get the money. It's a
mm,
rising tide element. So it's like in order to live in that frequency with certain people, you need to be on that frequency. So it
mm.
forces you to level up. You understand? So um, be very, very aware of who you keep around you. Super, super important. And your environment has huge, huge influence. So that's what I would say.
Okay, all right. That's powerful. That's so powerful. And I hope that all y'all's really, really take that in. Like those people will make you level up, or they will pull you down. So you get into the right frequency of people.
It's true. Like here's the thing. If you're around a bunch of people that bunch of dudes that are dedicated to going to the gym, you are going to be the odd one out. And basically be ostracized from the group if you're not also going to the gym. But going to the gym is a good thing. Other people are in groups of people that do things that are not beneficial towards life. You know what I mean? Whether it's they're wasting all their time doing drugs or wasting their time watching TV or something. You know what I mean? Their group is not conducive to success. But if you're around a bunch of people who are fit, getting money, building good relationships, you're going to do the same. That's who you want to be around.
Exactly. Because you don't want to be that person out. Okay. Next question. What's an absurd or unusual habit or thing that you love?
That's a good question too. Absurd and unusual habits. You probably have to ask my girlfriend. She might know, she might know better. You know what I mean? I tend to actually like to play R&B music when I work out, which is like a little counter, like intuitive to some people. Like most people want to have like some powerful music occurring, but I'm like, I like R&B music when I work out.
Yeah, you know what's actually wild? I'm actually very similar. I listen to classical while I work out.
Nice.
Yeah, it's something about it. I just get into this zone. I'm just like, I can focus on the muscle contractions, and it's just there, you know. So I definitely get it.
That is cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Other people will get my playlist like, Ty, what the hell is this? Like,
I met a guy who he's from Belgium, tall white dude with braids, big guy, and he is one of the most musically eclectic people. Like, I hopped in his car, he was playing some Mozart song, and he's like, this song actually induces your brain to like build different synapses or neurons or something. It basically makes you smarter. This particular Mozart song. And then the next song is like 3 6 Mafia. It's like, bro, who are you?
Gotta build it and break it down at the same time. Let's go.
Yeah, he's like, life's about balance.
Exactly. You gotta have your yin and yang. Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. And this is gonna be our last question for today. But what are some bad recommendations that you hear in your profession or areas of expertise?
Oh man, that's a good question. Don't pay for it. You know what I mean? So like people that are basically like too cheap and like to exchange a lot of time for money. I'm very much in the guise of like if I can buy back my time, I'll buy it back. You know. Also that a lot of people, this is more so like general, not necessarily for my business itself, but a lot of people think God is going to save them from their predicaments. And I actually believe in God, but I understand that I need to do the work in order for God to assist me. Imagine that I made a YouTube video about this, but imagine you're God and you've built all these people. You have all these creations. You want your creations to thrive. You want to see them working and thriving. That doesn't mean you're just going to give them things. If you just give your kids stuff, they become ungrateful, and a fortune not earned gets wasted away quickly. You know what I mean? So you're not just going to give it to them. You want to see that they are working and deserving of it, and then you will help them. That is why the rich get richer. That is why people who win continue to win. It's why they get favor, because they're actually putting in the work to get towards it. Right? A lot of people, I was talking to somebody the other day, they're like, yo, how can God exist if all of these bad things happen to me? It don't happen to you, bro. You're just not doing the things conducive to build the life that you want. And no one's going to give it to you. Right? So I hear a lot of that stuff too.
Okay. And that's yeah, that is so powerful. And I think there's so many gems and so many nuggets that you share with us today, that all of our listeners are going to get so much value out of this. Let me just plug real quick. I have, how can people find you? Yeah. So what is the best way to get in contact with you, and how can people find you?
The best way is probably Instagram. So that would be Seth Dyer _ on Instagram. So SETHDYER_. Also my website, thedyrdays.com. So THEDYERDAYS.com, thedyrdays.com. There people can book a one-on-one call with me. I call it an action call. I don't do conference calls or something. Like I do action calls. If you get on a call with me, you're going to have actionable steps to move your life forward. Also, people can sign up for my email list. I send out a daily email, which helps to inspire, motivate people, get people going. So it's centered around a lot of things that have happened to me in my life. And the email list is great. So you can sign up there.
All right. And that wraps up today's episode of the MITM podcast. I hope that y'all remember to take at least 5 nuggets from today. There's so many nuggets, but your job as listeners is to take a minimum of 5. All right. And with that being said, I will see you tomorrow. Peace.
Peace.
Give them that creme de la creme whenever I spit that hot shit. Ain't no lose or draw when it's the only option. Till I'm balling like Stockton, I'm locked in. Researching the best stock tips, fuck gossip unless it makes a profit.